What was the catalyst for becoming an author? Where did you, what was the motivation? What was the feeling? What was the initial driver?
I mean, it's hard to pinpoint it to just one thing. There's all these like bits and pieces of my life that I can look back and be like, oh yeah, that led me here. So the first was I had this teacher in, I guess it would be 5th grade or something, and he was a madman for arts and sciences, totally opposite ends of the spectrum, but he would put on these massive science fairs at the school, and then he would also, we would spend so much time doing sort of creative stuff. And I didn't like it because what kid likes school?
Right.
But I found out that I really enjoyed the creative stuff, like the writing specifically. I had to write a story as a school assignment, and I ended up really, really liking it. So this was, the age of 11. And then at around 15, I was living someplace where there was this was before internet was ubiquitous, right? But you had like the one dial-up modem that only one computer in the house could use. And if anybody needed to make a call. So the computer that I had access to was very much not that computer that was online. And so my parents were very anti-video games at the time. We would play Age of Empires, and we couldn't kill any of the enemies. We had to convert them all.
Oh,
and so that, yeah, video games were not a whole lot of fun, but the computer that I had access to had Microsoft Word and Microsoft Paint. And if you have seen my skill with art, you know that I made the right choice with Microsoft Word. And so it was just, you're bored. You've got nothing to do as a teenager. So I just sat down one day and I started writing effectively every 15-year-old boy's wet dream of a novel, like Jason Bourne meets like a Jackie Chan, Jet Li fantasy, a martial arts movie with some Mission Impossible. Like this thing was like snowmobile chase down a mountain with machine gun fights and then super cool hand-to-hand combat stuff. Like I was 15 years old. I did not know better, but it was like blink and an hour has gone by, or blink and 2 hours have gone by. And that was kind of like the eye-opening moment. Like, oh, I really enjoy storytelling. I'd always been a big reader, but storytelling really became fun. And then I dabbled a bit around the age of 18 and 19, a lot of like satire or whining about my life beneath the guise of satire, right?
As we all do.
Yeah, exactly. And then I kind of, tinkered here and there. And then there was this one Halloween when I was, I think, 19 years old. And I'm sleeping and I wake up and all of a sudden this idea just like is burned in my head of a bunch of hooded, creepy dudes standing around a stone altar in a cave, and there's a child there about to be sacrificed. And I just like woke up out of a dead sleep, got up, sat down, wrote this whole piece in an hour and a half, went back to sleep, read it the next morning, and I got the chills. I was like, okay, this is something really, really cool. Yeah. It was all mood, but it was, it had the horror of the child about to being sacrificed, and then the big, fight scene. It was a really fun thing to write.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of proved to me even more, okay, I love this creative outlet. And then I got together with my wife. She had 4 children, so I had no time for anything creative. It was, get a job, make money. But I was teaching English in Mexico City, and there was a lot of time between classes.
Right.
So I started looking around for other work, and I got into copywriting, blogging, writing articles for the internet. And that kind of taught me the discipline to sit down. Like I have literally written 15,000 words in a day writing these articles.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot of words.
So it's a lot of words. Your fingers and your brain are mush by the end.
I can imagine.
But it taught me that discipline of being able to just sit down and summon sort of brute force creativity in a way, because you don't have a choice. You have a deadline, you got to turn in these articles. So by the time I got to my mid-20s and I was doing this article writing thing full time, I realized, I'm a freelancer. I don't have a salary. The day I stop is the day I stop eating and paying rent
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, what's something that I could do that could sort of make money long term, or, basically make your money make money.
Yeah.
And this was in 2013, I think, 2014. And it was kind of like, a friend of mine had a comic book publishing company, and I had sent her that Halloween piece that I'd written, and she was like, "This is amazing." And then right at the same time, this idea that I had started tinkering around with years ago when I was, I think, 20 years old, I found it on my computer hard drive and rediscovered that. And then I was thinking about, I need to kind of have a future, like a job that I can one day stop and still brings in money. So all these things kind of like happened at exactly the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, I wrote this one piece when I was 19 years old. I'm in my mid-20s. I've had 5 years of being a stepfather.
Yep.
And living life, striking out on my own, moving out of my parents' house with my wife, building a life together. Mm-hmm. Surely I have more life experience. So I started writing, and it was I was visiting my brothers. I was living in Mexico. I came to Vancouver to visit my brothers. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have a lot of time like on the bus and on the, at the airport and sitting around waiting. So my goal for the weekend was to write this story that was very sort of Chain of Dogs meets 300.
Yeah.
And I did it. I finished the story before I got home, and I had so much fun with it because it was, everybody is going to die by the end of this book. I just need to make every single one of those deaths matter, like 300 did.
Crazy.
It was such an addictive feeling to have that kind of fun. And so I was like, okay, this is absolutely what I want to do in terms of, this brings me so much satisfaction at the core of who I am. I'm not arrogant enough to say that writing is my life's purpose, because I'm sure I could be a great gardener, right? I would sling a hell of a cocktail, but there is something about writing that fulfills this need in me. And so for like, in terms of my purpose, for myself and my own sense of satisfaction, fulfillment in life, writing is absolutely the thing that I need to do to feel like I'm living the most honest and genuine life, I think.
There's a lot to unpack there. Wow. Okay. No, I think, wow. Teacher, side hustle, copywriter, main hustle, side hustle, write a book, short story.
Yeah.
So are you now still like a full-time author, or do you do like a full-time thing and then being an author is your side?
So in 2018, when I launched the series that became Darkblade, it took off. Right. So I was able to transition into full-time writing.
Okay.
I learned over the following few years that bad royalty months are terrible for my, stress levels and anxiety.
Fair.
So I have kept sort of stable day job income, doing copywriting and blogging, or being involved in building projects like Little Stack, things like that just kind of bring in money that I can count on.
Yep.
The books will forever be the greatest source of income, but I need to know that, it's a low sales month. Well, I've still got this money coming. And it's just, growing up poor, financial anxiety is a very real thing.
It is. It very much is.
So having some kind of stability is necessary to not lose my shit when things are not working out as well as I'd hoped.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Wow. Okay. Can I share a story from my high school days? So I'm from Paris, Texas, super small town, North Texas by the Oklahoma border. You just drive, it's a drive-through town. You just go through it essentially. And there was in our English classes, basically, there was a project every year that was like, write a short story, less than 1,500 words. And that was a project because it was a part of the school scholastic system was there's this scholastic competition called FPS, Future Problem Solving, and part of that is every year you can submit like short essays to like a committee. If they think it's good, you get an award. Congratulations, you made a good piece of writing. It was like trying to promote creativity, creative writing, etc., all that stuff.
Love that.
My sister's a writer in our family. She's growing up. She wrote things. She's a writer. She's a theater. She's a creative, in my opinion. Let's disregard the fact of the creative stuff that I'm doing now and that I'm a dancer and all those things. She was the literary creative in my head. But, for these projects, you just had to write a story. So I would just write whatever story would come to mind. I wrote an underwater adventure at some point. I wrote a 3-cast fight scene at some point.
Nice.
3-cast, and since I was in high school, I was writing other teens or young adult cast, right?
Yeah.
Gave me Ron, Hermione, Harry type of vibes at that point. I don't write. I don't know how to write. I don't write. Tell me why. Well, you probably can't tell me why, but tell me why my English teacher was always picking mine. I always, and her stipulation was just write the story. You'll get the grade. You'll get the passing grade. If I send it, then we'll edit it. We'll edit it down to 1,500 words. And I was like, I never made mine 1,500 words. Never. It was always 1,800, always 2,000. And she kept picking mine every year, and it's the same teacher every year, to get sent off. It never got past getting sent off, but she kept choosing mine to get sent off. And one time, I never asked her, why do you keep choosing mine? There's 50 other students right here. You're choosing 3 or 4. They're so much better. So I never liked writing. No matter what, I never liked writing. And I find myself in this position now of writing reviews or writing scripts or getting my thoughts down or writing in some form or fashion, right? Whether it's creatively or not. And I always think back to then of did I not see any sort of storytelling talent? Did I not see what I was doing was maybe still other people like it? If I don't, other people like it, that kind of thing, right? And so I think back to that when I think of stories like yours, where it's oh well, as a youth, I enjoyed the process of writing, right? I hated writing, I hated essays, I hated all that stuff, and I still find myself in a position where that involves me writing long form pieces sometimes, things like that, right? It's weird. It's just weird to me. I don't know what it is. It's just weird where we find ourselves.
It's possible that you just haven't found the story that needs to be told yet. In the sense that most authors, they don't start writing until there's just this idea they can't shake, right? So maybe all the pieces are there, and then one day you're just going to stumble across the story, and then you're going to be like, oh, I need to write this. But because you've had that experience, it will give you the foundation to work off of, and then you'll realize that maybe the reason your stuff was picked was because they were actually good, whether or not you enjoyed them. Right. You strung those 2,000 words together in such a way that there was value in them, or there was honesty in them. Because I think that resonates so much more through a story than necessarily the quality of the writing. If you think about all of your favorite stories, and or I will say the stories that hit you hardest, they may not have been the best written. A really good example of this is Sword of Kaigen. A lot of people love Sword of Kaigen because it's got this massive gut punch in the middle. That is still one of the most devastating stories that I've read. Is it one of the best written? Is it one of the best structured? Far from it. But it got you with those emotional moments. It got you with its honesty. And so I think as a writer, that's what I strive for more than technical perfection. I want to feel. I feel like my emotional roller coaster is more like a little, speed bumps, not a full emotional roller coaster. So if I can write something that makes me feel big feelings, good or bad, then I'm super happy. Same thing with reading. Right. So if I can write a story that elicits that emotion in me and hopefully in other readers, then even if it's not the best writing in the world, that is, I think, the most satisfying thing for me.
So then after, I guess, at the point when you were able to be a bit more full-time as an author and kind of writing is the thing that you want to do, did you see or feel any noticeable differences in just you as a person, or any changes that happened afterwards of I used to not be like this, but now I am and I enjoy it?
Oh, I mean, there are so many changes. it is insane how big the changes are. I've become so much more of an outgoing person, which sounds totally weird, but it's like I used to be very introverted. I am like 51% extrovert, which was a massive discovery in itself. But I've come to realize how much I like connecting with people to understand them, because it makes it easier for me to kind of conceptualize characters. But then I find myself understanding people through the context of a character. Like, okay, someone cuts me off in traffic. It's easy to be like, what an asshole.
Yeah.
But it's also just as easy to be like, oh, he's rushing home because his wife is pregnant. All of a sudden the context has changed. You learn to look for context, because every single scene and character has to have some kind of context. So just having that mindset of what am I not seeing, or what's the context behind this? I think it's made me a little bit more generous in terms of allowing people to be dicks, or to just not be great all the time. But then it's also made it easier to connect with people, because you're like, oh, I remember that I read this book and this character experienced that, or oh, I remember that in this book and I really liked this approach to it. So you can kind of interact with people so much more easily, because you are literally thinking outside of your own head. Like I notice that people who don't sort of live a creative pursuit, they tend to be more self-focused. I'm not going to say self-centered, but self-focused. And it's because at work, you basically do a good job, do your job, do it well. But then there are people who, like, for example, salespeople or servers, or people who have to think outside of themselves. They tend to be a lot more, like I said, generous, and they tend to be a lot less self-centered, and so they're easier to connect with. And that's something that's probably the biggest change that I've noticed since becoming an author.
Okay, the extroverted thing is interesting to me, and I was going to ask this later on, but I think this is the good time to ask. Is like, how did you're a very electric person. I want to start by saying you're very energetic, very electric. You're thank you, very eloquent as well. And so whenever I first came across your content, I was like, he punches with what he says. He's very like, you put a lot of emotion and energy into what you're saying. And did all of that, like the way you speak and the way you like make your content, the way you like talk about books online and things like that, did that come after the fact as well, of after writing, after kind of trying to build a community? Did you see, is this how you connect with your community? Did it like develop this like electricity inside of you, or was it already there and you just kind of translated that over to your kind of your online content persona, whatever it is?
So this is it's a great question, because I have been invisible a lot of my life, which is a weird thing to say when you are 6.5 feet tall and a big loud dude. But when I was living in Japan and in Mexico, it was like, don't be noisy, don't be big, don't be the ugly American. So I kind of had to be a smaller version of myself. And then coming to Canada, where there are a lot of people who look and sound and talk like me and are my size, and then coming to Canada and succeeding as an author at the same time, it kind of opened up this, like the who I am as a human being, because I could finally be in a country where when I say, oh, I'm an author, people are like, huh? What's that? But they're like, oh, you write books? Tell me about them. There was interest. People actually read here in Canada. So having this connection with people, it kind of like it opened me up a lot more, and I was able to be the real version of myself in a way that I never was able to be in other countries. And it's not the country's fault. It's that, you don't want to stand out or be a target for pickpockets or whatever. So then you just, you be smaller, you be more intro. But then starting on social media, I was so bad. My first videos are so bad because they always are. But I realized, okay, I don't want to, or it's hard to summon excitement about my own books. I love talking about my books. I could talk for hours about whatever it is, but it's easy to summon excitement for this book that I loved or that book that I loved. So I found this sort of piece of myself that I could show the world safely, right? Because that's what it comes down to. We have all these little bits and pieces, these facets of who we are, and we try showing them to the world, and then the world is like, get back in line, or, oh, tell me more. And so once you see that there is the receptiveness, that people like that, then you lean into it more, you become more of that. It's just the basic reward system in your brain.
Right.
So when I found that people resonated with the genuine excitement that I had about all these books that you see on my shelf, it made me so much more excited to lean into that. So it allowed me to be the truest self that I can be, the part that I had always kind of had to hide away. And so I loved being able to, I still love being on social media, which sounds so, oxymoronic, because, social media, a lot of people dislike the fact that they have to be on social media. I don't like the work of it, but I love being able to be like, hey, here's an awesome book. Here's why I love it. Get excited with me. I come alive when I get to do that because it's something that people connect with. It is another source of connection for me. So I think that's the driving force behind my magnetic personality. If you meet me in real life, I perform really, really well for the world. And then I go sit down at my computer and I'm quiet for 6 hours or something. But
you're recharging a little bit.
Absolutely. And so it's the same thing at conventions. When I go to conventions, I have lots of coffee and I am on the stage all day long, and then I don't say another word the rest of the day. It's kind of that balance between extrovert and introvert. But then, like, the difference between attending a comic con, right, a comic book convention or a book convention, versus if I was to go around like some kind of business convention or like job fair, I wouldn't even know I wouldn't know who to be in these places. But at a book convention, I mean, I'm safely behind my table, so that's nice and easy. But, oh my God, you've got that book that I just read, or, oh, I've heard about that book. What do you think about it? And just being that, that is, I think, what makes it so fun, and that excitement comes out through that.
So how do you juggle that a little bit with kind of your actual job of you wanting to write your books and things like that? But then, I know if you're an indie author and you're doing everything yourself, it can get a lot of business and less of creative writing, making the book, making the outlines, plotting, planning, whatever it is, the stuff maybe you want to do more.
Yes.
How do you kind of balance that out? Or do you have a balance in that?
I mean, it's a daily struggle.
Yeah.
I will say. But it's just basically trying to figure out how to make systems. So right now, for example, my first task of every day is to get the less exciting day job stuff out of the way, right? 7 o'clock in the morning at my desk, day job stuff is done by 8:30. Go downstairs for breakfast. Next priority is writing that first chapter. Sit down, write a chapter. After that, I do social media for an hour. So it's baked into my schedule now. It is a system that every day I either film, edit, or research content,
and
for an hour.
In that 1 hour. Interesting.
In that 1 hour, and maybe that's not enough, so I have to do more later, or maybe it is enough. If I'm filming and editing a few videos every day, and I'm always scheduled a few days ahead, I'm not stressing so much. But it's just kind of figuring out what to prioritize in what quantity, and then baking that into your day. So right now, my day is structured to 15-minute intervals, where it's day job, breakfast, cleaning, writing a chapter, social media, lunch, reading for an hour, writing a chapter, going to the gym, afternoon work, dinner at 7 o'clock, 7:30, and then whatever the evening has to hold. But up until that sort of 7 o'clock mark, the day is totally organized with all of these systems that I have built into my life. So it makes it possible to kind of balance everything. Are things getting left, dropped, or am I, failing to juggle everything perfectly? Absolutely. But enough is getting done that I can be like, yeah, I'm heading in the right direction.
And you prefer this scheduled, systematic, way of living more than I'm gonna wake up and do whatever I feel like doing the first thing and kind of just going with it.
See, I can't do that in the sense of I will feel like there are so many things going undone every single day. And the only way that I can be like, this is not going to get dropped is if I know when I'm going to do it. So as an example, I'm doing direct sales from my website.
Right.
I know that every Friday or Saturday, I am sending out books, which means I don't have to stress about sending out books, Sunday through Thursday. I just got to make sure that come Friday and Saturday, I've got that. So anything that I would otherwise shift to Friday or Saturday now goes into Thursday or Sunday. And so just having that kind of control over when I'm going to do the thing makes it easier to make sure that balls don't get dropped.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that you said that, because I think we're talking about it more now. Planning out when you're actually doing the thing and not letting yourself feel, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, is half the battle.
Yeah.
Literally half the battle, coming from someone who also has a ton of things to do that he wants to do. An example, this was the first year that I filed an extension for my taxes, because you can file the 6 month extension here. First time I ever did that, because I am also a tax accountant. When I should be filing my own taxes, I'm doing other people's taxes.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was like, I'm just going to file the extension for now, and I'll do it in the summer. So sometimes my parents will call me and say, have you done it yet? I'm like, no, I'll do it. I know I'm going to do it in this time or this time, and I know I just want to do it. My wife's like, do you want to do it this weekend? I'm like, no, I already have a plan to do June. June is when I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It is midway through June, haven't done it yet, but June is when I'm going to do it. So it's all of April, all of May, I was like, don't have to worry about it. I'm not worrying about it. We know we're moving in 2 weeks, and a month ago, my wife was like, do you want to start packing? I'm like, why are we starting now? We're going to be using these things. We're going to be stressed about packing. We're going to be stressed about boxes being everywhere for a month and a half. No, these 2 weeks in June are the best 2 weeks for us to do it, closer to when we're moving, and that's it. We're done. So I'm not stressing about moving or packing. Just next week I will. So it's to your point, planning out, even in a week or in a time frame, in this time frame is when these things will happen, and therefore these other days I'm not worried about doing these things. It frees up the mind to do the thing that you're actually trying to do that day also, right? Instead of feeling like FOMO or opportunity cost of I'm doing this, but should I be doing that other thing? I'm doing the other thing, but should I be doing this instead?
One of the greatest tools is Gmail has the snooze function. So I'm one of these zero inbox guys where I will never have, unless it's something I need to do. So my Gmail inbox becomes my to-do list. For example, let's say I get an order for a book on Sunday. I snooze it until Friday. Anytime in the week, I snooze it. And then all of a sudden on Friday, I have 10 orders in the email. So, okay, this is what I'm doing. Right. Anything that I get today that I can't deal with, well, I'll snooze it until Monday. But maybe my Monday is too busy, so I'll snooze it until Tuesday. And so it's always, instead of having a calendar, because a calendar is one more thing to look at or forget to look at, unfortunately. Whereas, I always have my inbox window. It's always open. So I will never not remember the thing that's sitting and staring me right in the face, that big one. I will never let that go because it's just part of sort of the way of keeping everything controlled. But then also using that to kind of think about things. So sometimes, like right now, I'm trying to figure out this story, and I've left some emails just sitting there, and I'll go back and I'll check them and then leave them unread. So my brain will keep coming back to thinking about them. So having that function in Gmail changed my life.
Yeah, that's awesome, because the thing you said about control, that's really funny. Recently I started going to therapy back in November, but my therapist at some point this year, early in the year, said, I think you might be like on the perfectionism spectrum. I was like, no, I'm not me, never, could never. And as I now live through life with that new information in my lens, I'm like, there's a reason why I can't stand the red 1 to 400 notification on my app bubble. Is that part of it? Because I'm the exact same way. I don't like notifications, so I have to clear them. It doesn't matter. So same thing with email, same thing with anything else. I have to read it and clear it. I'll read it.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll read it and maybe leave it as unread to come back to later. But at least I know that like if there is a 1 there, I've already seen that 1. It's just I did it on purpose. So I have to clear my stuff. On iPhones, like Gmail the mail app did this thing where it like buckets your mail into what it thinks are like different categories now. Like primary, and now everything's in like most of the things are in general. So there's a time when like I only got like 3 emails interesting, and I'll go to general. I'm like, there's 50 here. Select all, mark as unread. They're all marketing anyway. But this need to remove the notification boxes also, it's baked into me. So on this journey, I'm sure you face many obstacles. What is the most memorable or impactful obstacle that you have faced thus far on your author journey?
Damn. I mean, there's so many of them that just like boiling it down to just one is almost impossible. I mean, I think the biggest I think the biggest one is just stretching your creative muscles. Like it's hard to continually create. And so right now I have been spending an entire week obsessing over the tone of voice for this project that I'm working on, and I still don't have it. I've spent a week on it. I've never spent a week on anything. And I gave myself until next week to figure it out. And so it's like, how do I summon this creativity? How do I know this idea is going to come. How do I get from here where I am now to there? And how do I not lose my shit waiting for that moment to come? So I think that's like the struggle. It's not a big one, but it's a little one, and it's consistent. It's persistent, because every single day you find yourself kind of reaching for the creativity, inspiration, and there's no guarantee you're going to grasp it. What comes may not be good. It may be absolute garbage, but you keep trying, you keep forcing yourself to do that reach. And it's kind of just like building trust that you will you'll find it, you'll reach it. That's probably the biggest obstacle that I've found.
Interesting. No, I find the literal concept of having like spending a whole week on trying to figure out a tone interesting. But then, like, I guess you're someone, like you said, like you try and brute force creativity sometimes, but even brute forcing it at this point hasn't been working. So you're just, do you think switching would help? That's like if you do switch next week to like, I'm just going to switch to this new writing, the other projects that I have to write on. Do you think that would help? So like in the background, it's still marinating, or?
Well, I tend to be pretty focused. So when I set this down, I will think about it, but I won't, it won't be ruminating in the back of my head. But like my perspective has changed. I wrote 4 chapters in January, and I just picked them back up this week to edit them and to figure out what it is that, that didn't feel right. So, but the way that I'm seeing the story has changed a lot. So maybe when I have, if I can't figure it out and I put it down 6 months from now, or the next time I have a hole in my schedule and I can come back to thinking about it, maybe I will be in the right headspace, or maybe all of the random factors in my life that are totally unpredictable will have fallen into place in just such a way that idea strikes at the right time. Like again, there's no predicting this stuff. So it's just like today, I'm going to drive for an hour and just not listen to anything and see if something comes. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to be thinking about this the whole time. But it's like you chase the muse, but also give the muse space to come to you. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time that I have ever struggled in this sense, because it's going from my usual third person narrative, which is pretty easy to settle into. It's a more generic tone. Yeah. And then the character comes through their actions and their dialogue, to getting into this first person thing. And so if I can't crack it, there is going to be a frustration. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to feel like, oh, I'm not good enough as an author. It'll be, oh, I'm not in the headspace for it, or, oh, the inspiration and the creativity didn't strike. So it's just kind of having the trust in myself to say, this is not the story for today. Mm-hmm. Set it aside. The story for today will now be Darkblade 11. Yep. The story for today will be Secret Trilogy Book 3. Mm-hmm. And I will figure this out. 100% of my attention will go into this and making it great. And then I will come back to that later on and hope that I am in the right headspace.
Interesting. Have you always had that trust in yourself as an author? Or do you think in the past this may have looked differently?
What was the question? If it was always a challenge?
Have you always had that trust in yourself as an author of, it's not because I'm a bad author, it's because right now this is just maybe not what I want to or need to be writing, and I can come back to it in 6 months, a year, whatever it is?
I think I've gotten a bit more zen as I've aged, mm-hmm. because when you're young, you're trying to prove yourself. You're trying to prove that you're good. I don't think I need to try to prove that I'm good in the way that I did when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I want to tell a story that has maximum emotional impact. So the challenge is, how can I do that with this story? Mm-hmm. So if I can't figure it out, well, it's like, okay, I'm just not skilled enough yet, or I'm not in the headspace yet. Tagging that yet onto things is a game changer, because sure, my book's not selling yet. The story idea hasn't materialized yet. It creates this space for the future you to achieve success. And I think something where a lot of authors fail is they're so focused on the now, the current project, the current book, the current series, that if it doesn't become an overnight literary success, or it doesn't become a commercial success and tell a bunch of books, or it gets a bunch of bad reviews, it's like their entire existence is locked into the now. Yeah. And so then that breaks them in a way, or it seriously affects them. And I've had series that got bad reviews. I've had series that didn't sell. But that doesn't mean the next series will get bad reviews or won't sell, so, or the one after that, or the one after that, or I've got between. The whole point of getting into doing this author thing was that I wanted to be able to do a job for the rest of my life and not hate it. On the contrary, to love it. So if I can see myself keep writing until I'm 80, how many more books can I write in that time? That, there's no reason that this book has to be the best thing I've ever written. Mm-hmm. The next book doesn't have to be, the next great American masterpiece. If I can just be in the moment, create this piece of art as best I can, as honestly as I can. If it doesn't sell, okay, on to the next one. If it doesn't get great reviews, okay, on to the next one. If people yell at you because they didn't like the way that you ended a particular series, on to the next one.
Oh my God. You know what? That's fair. That's fair. Good.
But the whole point is like, if your identity or your life is wrapped up in this one piece of art, you are very fragile as a human being. Mm-hmm. But if you're like, okay, there's this piece of art that I've created, and this piece of art, and this piece of art, and all the other pieces of art I'm going to create, you can kind of build your foundation on all of them, mm-hmm. past, present, and future. Then it brings you a lot more equanimity. There's a lot less, oh my God, am I going to fail? Am I going to die?
Right.
That's, it's like, somebody didn't like Darkblade. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I spent so much time laboring on it. They didn't like it. Okay, but maybe they love something else. Or maybe I'm not the writer for them. Maybe the books that I write aren't okay. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make me bad. I'm not less of an author because somebody doesn't like me. It's just, it doesn't work for them. And the moment that I realized this, I started to realize it when I went to Goodreads and looked at the rating on my favorite book. I'm going to check it now because I want to see if the okay, no, the ratings have gotten a bit better. But so The Lies of Locke Lamora was my favorite book for many years. It's still one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
And it had like a 3.8 star rating, and there are hundreds or thousands of 1-star reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved this book, and I thought this book is as close to perfect as I could ask for. So knowing that, it put things into context. Like, okay, somebody didn't like my favorite book. Why are they so wrong to start? And
exactly.
Why didn't it jive with them? And that was when it clicked. Okay, I am not going to be the author or the storyteller for everybody. Right. And it takes so much burden off of that. That's not an excuse to get lazy or to settle or to stop, challenging myself creatively, but taking the pressure off. I don't have to please everybody. I don't have to be the storyteller for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I can find people who are the right people,
mm-hmm.
that is success.
So much there, right? The fragility of focusing all of your mood, energy, emotions on everything that you're creating now, and more so the feedback of what you're creating now versus what it is itself. Like, this was a really cool thing that I made. I'm happy with it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. As opposed to, this is a really cool thing that I made and I'm showing it to people and they don't like it. I suck. You know what? Forget it. I'm just going to stop doing this thing ever again. I'm going to go become a bookkeeper in a small firm and go into a cubicle and never show myself to the world ever again. Right? There's two sides. There's two ends of the spectrum.
It's separating the art from the artist.
It is. It very much is. And well, that's interesting, right? Because usually we say that phrase to other people. Like, I'm separating Andy's books from Andy.
Yeah.
Instead of me saying I'm separating Arish's content from Arish. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, one can be bad while the other one is awesome. Both can be great. Both can be bad. Both can be whatever they are separately. And they don't have to connect almost.
Yeah. So a really good example of this is when I first started on Instagram, I was watching a lot of content. I still watch a lot of content, and there's authors or bookstagrammers or people who do amazing things. For example, TD Orell, right? Or Elizabeth Wheatley. They make such entertaining content. Or Jason Headley, Easy Cat, right? The vibe that he gives off, these people, they're so fun to watch. Mm-hmm. But there is an ability to act that they possess that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Am I a less good author or bookstagrammer on Instagram because of that? No, I just don't have acting chops like they do. Mm-hmm. I guarantee they can't be as excited about a book as I am. Mm-hmm. So it's like you understand your limitations, that they don't make you less than, they just are.
Yep.
Right? And then you push them as best you can, but then you let that go.
Yep. Interesting. Also, calling back to when I did DM Andy as I was reading his Dragon Ball Assassin series, and I yelled at him many times, which he so graciously, just nicely, politically correctly responded to, and made me feel better. I will still say, till this day, that Golgoth and Shaitzai's bond, top 5 Dragon Bonds ever.
Yes.
And he was on screen for like 50 pages, I think.
Yeah.
It's just the lore around him that was built up in the series, combined with them finally meeting his like shadow, decrepit, like necrotic state almost, and then her like fiery state of like, ooh, that was an emotionally impactful.
Yes,
for sure. So I will say that heavily succeeded, because as soon as you said you like making emotionally impactful scenes, first one that came to mind, and I think that's like top 5 scenes that'll like live rent free in my head.
Hell yeah,
from that series. But yes, I did want to let people know that I was the one that was yelling at Andy in the DM. But it blossomed.
I love it. Right. I love it. I love it in the sense of if I made you care deeply enough about the character that you were pissed at me for not treating them right, there is the disappointment of I didn't land the story in the way that you would have liked or that I would have liked. But up until that moment, everything that I had done was right. Everything that I had done had just drawn you deeper and deeper and deeper in. And so that's a win.
Yeah.
You know, like there are endings that are bad enough that ruin the thing. You know, nobody talks about Game of Thrones anymore because of the colossal fuck up that was the ending. But Game of Thrones is still a masterpiece of television. It is still a masterpiece of storytelling. And so knowing that, it makes it easier to be like, okay, it's not perfect, but it was awesome. 75% of the time, 95% of the time, however much it was, and that's enough.
True. How is on the topic of connecting with your readers as in a lot of times an indie author does, how has that experience been for you? Like whether you connect with them online or connect with them at these cons, or if you have your own like mini community that you connect with them, and either it's like Discord or whatever it is, like how has it been connecting with your readers like directly?
It's the best part of social media.
Yeah.
I love connecting with my favorite authors, where it's like, so I was just reading this book, The Girl Who Could Move Shit with Her Mind, last week. And I met, I knew the author. He lives in Vancouver. We met up last night. Awesome dude. But I messaged him and I was like, oh my God, you just did this thing. It was so nice to vent a little bit, whether it's excitement or whether it's, annoyance, whatever the case is. It made me feel, it gave me sort of that connection. I was one step closer to the author than it's just somebody whose name is on a book.
Right.
And I feel the same way, where it's like, I write what I write to connect with people, right? I put this piece of myself on a page so that they can see it. And when they see it, when they message me, when they make the effort to go to my website and message me on my contact form or reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, it's them saying, I see you and I understand you, or I like you, or we get each other. And that is that sense of connection. This is probably the greatest thing about social media. In this regard, it is an absolute amazing tool for connection. You find people to connect with through these things. So in that sense, I love it. I still get, people saying, oh, it's a ripoff of this, or, oh, it's dumb, whatever the case is. You can ignore those. You can answer them however you want. Everybody approaches social media differently, but I love the fact that I can reach out to people and people can reach out to me. It makes me feel less alone on my little island of authorness or my little island of readerness.
Right. Do you sometimes wish, or let me preface that with this question. Do you always read books from the lens of an author now, or do you read them from the lens of a reader? Or is there a distinction?
It's hard. So there was a time that I could not shut down Author Brain. For years, actually. I couldn't shut down Author Brain when I was reading. So I read maybe 2 books a year and listened to 15 or something. But then there were a couple of series that just did it. They're actually here on my shelf. So this one here, Paternus by Dirk Ashton. The writing in the beginning of this was not great, but there was this moment where I clicked with what he was trying to do. Kind of like with the first couple of episodes of One Punch Man, I didn't understand what he was doing. And then when I realized he was deconstructing the superhero genre, it stopped being stupid. It became, oh, this is actually a pretty intelligent lampooning of superheroes. So the same thing, what he was doing in this one, I didn't get it at first. And then I understood what he was going for. And there was just this moment where Author Brain shut off and I ripped through the 3 books back to back.
Wow.
And then it was about another year before I found another book that did that, which was Peter Brett's The Demon Cycle. And I burned through those 5 books back to back. And then I picked up another one, Peter McLean's Priest of Bones. And I burned through that one. And then all of a sudden I'm reading books again. And somehow the author brain has shut off. It's stayed shut off.
Interesting.
Or I've managed to keep it disengaged enough that I can say, okay, the writing here isn't super good, but I'm enjoying the character. Or, oh, the character is so boring, but the writing is really pretty. Like, there's trying to find the balance there. I still have a hard time as both a reader, because I want to be instantly engaged. And if a book doesn't work for me right away, it's sometimes hard to be patient. I have a hard time as an author sometimes, because I see how an author could make a story better. And it's hard to be like, oh, it's going to be good. If an author who consistently makes the choices that I can say, oh, wow, this is amazing, I will trust them. If an author keeps making choices that I don't necessarily agree with, then it's like, oh, I don't think you're going to make the right choice again. So it's kind of, that's where the author side has a hard time. But then also as a content creator, I want to be able to make new content. And in order to do that, I have to read more, not more books, but read a book. I have to finish the book to do a review. So it's hard. Like right now I'm working through Robin Hobb's Live Ship series. Everybody raves about it. I've loved what I've read of it so far, but it's 800 pages each book.
Yeah, that's long.
And that's a long book. So if I read the 3 books in the trilogy, that's my entire month of June, basically. And so then during that time, what kind of content am I making? That's a thought that goes through my brain. So all of these different parts of myself are kind of at war when I read. I'm very happy when I find one that's just like, boom, instantly engaging.
Yep. You know, I agree with that a lot. Coming from someone who, when I started making content, I started watching other people's videos from the lens of a creator as opposed to the lens of a consumer.
Yeah.
And whether that's good or bad, you know, you can make a distinction that if I'm watching things from the lens of a creator, at some point I can turn off, but I can also turn off the social media and not look at it. If I watch it from the lens of a consumer, I might be just doom scrolling or whatever it is. But what I found myself falling to the trap of early on in trying to become a creator is seeing what people did. And I was like, they did this, like this, and look at all the metrics that they have. I did this. I couldn't turn off the comparison mechanism either. And so it made me have a very bad relationship with social media, to where I stopped. I just cold turkey. I was like, I'm never scrolling again. I'm only creating what I want, posting it, and then leaving the app, which is nice for trying to figure out how to make the videos, how to post, how to do all the stuff. It's not great for understanding how the algorithm works or how platforms work. What are people talking about right now? What is the algorithm pushing? It doesn't work for that. You have to watch things to kind of see what's going on. So it wasn't until this year when I really developed a better relationship with creating content with myself, with all the videos, that I was like, okay, I can post and become and do my creator stuff, and I can consume and still do both without turning on the comparison mechanism now. So I'm able to shut that off after the third year of me doing this.
Nice.
And now that I can talk to people as a creator and a consumer, I've actually been able to even be comfortable commenting on the people's videos of oh, this was interesting, or just random comments here or there, or DM other people and just ask them about it. Being able to turn that off really did change the game in that sense. I'm currently in a book slump. 3 weeks, going on 3 weeks, going on 3.5, almost 4 weeks now. Because simply of the fact of I read 13 books in 13 days. No.
Any one of these will do it.
Interesting. Oh my God. Okay. I'm glad it's on video so I can screenshot that later.
Yeah, these are the books that I'm using for research for the story that I'm writing, in the sense that they all have very strong character voices.
Interesting. Okay.
And what makes them so instantly engaging is that character voice. So you could go into any one of those books and you would have an instant idea of who these people are. Because they were done so well, which is what I'm trying to figure out how to do in my own writing. But every single one of those have the potential to be slump busters.
That's actually exciting, because I actually might pick those up, because I've opened and closed 8 books now.
Which ones?
Honestly, most of them are on that shelf. We'll go. I tried reading Cello's Gate by Maurice Fritz, which has been going around. I got to page 100 and then I stopped, for some reason. I tried reading Novaterra Titan. I got like a chapter in. I wasn't messing with like the writing, so I was like, I'll get back to it later. I recently tried reading Dava Shastri's Last Day, which is a standalone fiction, not necessarily fantasy. I thought just a complete change of vibe would help me. I was getting into it, and then I also stopped that. I tried reading Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty because, me and Tim, we both wanted to read the Phoenix King. We did that, and we both wanted to read Sons of Darkness, and so I tried to start it. And I knew that I was going to need like 120% of my brain power to start reading this book. It is like the epicest of epic fantasies that I read recently. And because it's so...
Yeah, you need to give that one time to work.
Exactly. But I also need to focus. And I'm so used to like opening a book while like maybe my wife's watching something on her laptop or like we have the TV on or something like that, right? Like passively absorbing and reading as opposed to sit down, no sounds, go to a library, absolute silence, start reading. That one hasn't worked. I tried to read A Song of Legends Lost by, I think it's M.H.I. Inde, and that one was really good. I was like, this is the one I finish. I promise you I'm going to finish this one. I got to part 3.
Okay.
She introduces a new character of like, I haven't seen any of the characters up until now. And I'm like, my brain has just gotten like in the rhythm of following all these characters, all their lore, all their history, everything. And now there's a new one in here and it broke my immersion. At a different time it would have worked. A
good book that has just a single point of view character, that's always a guarantee to get me.
Yeah. And so, this one already had like 4. It was just, they were more or less introduced all at the beginning of the story. So going through it, even in parts 1 and 2, you're like used to it. But now, and then in part 3 was another one. But this is like second half of the book. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, where are they fitting into the timeline now? My brain's running overdrive. So then I put that down. And right now I'm reading a book called The Vending Portal, which is by a new indie author. It's her debut book. One of my friends actually recommended it to me and gave me the book. And it's a very, very short one. I think it's like a collection of short stories surrounding this like overarching vending machine that's a portal. I don't know. I got like a chapter in or so.
Nice.
And so I'm working on that. But I keep going down this. Okay, can't do big ones. Smaller books, get me through a book. I still haven't finished a book yet. And so I'm trying to work through them also because nothing is let me grab this. Nothing feels as good as these books right now, which was the 13 books that I read in 13 days, like literally less than 24 hours.
Nice. That's awesome.
And so I'm pretty sure I'm just like, I'm slumped because I'm overstimulated, maybe to an extent of like you read every single day.
Yeah.
I think I read more than I worked those days.
Wow.
Just these books, just like clicking through. I'm like, also it was a Kindle 100%. I believe in ebook supremacy. Because it's just addicting to just yellow background, large text, click, 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 click.
Books are trophies. You don't read them. Exactly. You keep the spines nice and pretty. They sit on your shelf. They look really good.
Exactly. So I'm hoping my goal in June is to finish one book. One book will be done in June, and I'll make my end of June. Here's what I read in June video. And it will be 3 minutes long simply because I will just talk about the one book that I finished. I have to ask you, and I'm sure people who are watching also are wondering, what are the stories behind the swords in the back?
Okay, so there's actually one weapon for every one of the series that I've written.
Interesting. Okay.
So this one is from Heirs of Destiny.
Okay.
The characters, the chosen warriors of this kingdom, they use the flammerges or flammards. Awesome swords. This one is the hunter's longsword.
Okay.
It's just a plain longsword. I don't want to make a soul hunger dagger until I have like the full blueprints and a blacksmith and all that.
Yeah.
But then there is the Queen of Thieves dagger.
Interesting.
And then off to the side here, this is the spear that's wielded by the Silent Champion's soldier character.
Okay.
So it's just a way of commemorating. Like, obviously I get to keep the books on my shelf because it's lovely, but it's a way of commemorating the work that went into each series.
Yep. And did you I have to ask, did you make them yourself or did you have them commissioned or?
I most of them are just like stock.
Okay.
So the sword was bought off of a place that sells like actual historical European martial arts swords.
Interesting.
I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do to celebrate Dragon Blood Assassin.
Yeah.
I wanted to get the lash blade made, but it's too hard to get made.
I saw videos of people making like whip blades and lash blades, and I'm like, just making this thing looks intense.
Yeah.
I can't imagine full size, disjointed. You pick it up, you hit a random button. Oh shoot, it's whipping.
Yeah, it's something else. Maybe I'll get like a little dragon statue for my shelf or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But Lashblade is still one of the best. Top 5.
It was fun.
Top 5 weapons, and a book that I've read, rather, as opposed to, I know people have read other books in the past, and books that I've read, top 5. Tell me about Little Stack. What's going on there?
Little Stack is made for people who want to be organized readers, effectively. So when I was working for somebody who runs a different website, like a content website, and he's like, "Hey, I had this idea for a book website," and so it started off as kind of like a fantastic fiction analog where it's just, all these authors, their book series in order, really nice, neat, easy. If you want to go find out Andy's books, what's the publication order? You go there, you find it. That's where it starts. But then as we're getting into it, the more we're realizing what it has the potential to be. So it's got like, I love organizing my TBR, whether I actually get to reading them or not. Yep. I need to know what I'm planning to read. So having tools there that let me organize the TBR, mark what's currently reading, create, like, leave notes and reviews for myself. Like, we're not doing the social aspect. There is no public ratings and reviews, but everybody can go back and look at whatever book they read at any point in their past and see, oh, I rated this one 3.5 stars, which we do allow for half stars, by the way, which was very important to me.
Fair.
And you leave a note for yourself where you can write a whole review and all of that. So I just like having somewhere where I can organize my TBR, and that's where we're starting with the basics. But eventually it will be something like a BookBub, where when a new book comes out, like even now, when a new book comes out by an author that you follow there, you get an email saying the new book is released. And that's super helpful for me if I want to know. I got the title of Jay Kristoff's Empire of the Dawn the day before he announced it, because we had gotten the information off of Amazon. The publisher posted it for pre-order before he announced it. So I felt very proud of myself.
That's awesome.
For that. Yeah. But so it's starting off small, just kind of, you make an account, you add books to your TBR, you track your TBR that way. You see what's new. We're doing articles every week of kind of like I do on social media, where here's 6 books on, comedy and fantasy. Yep. And you just start curating your own little stacks of books, and it's gonna blossom into something really cool and big in the long term. We're just taking it one day at a time.
I have it bookmarked when I haven't been able to translate all of because I just moved from Goodreads to Storygraph this year. And then when Little Stack came out, I was like, no, this actually looks dope. I want to use it. So for my work, they do what's called a firm-wide shutdown every 4th of July week and every Christmas week. So you get one
nice
for the entire firm. And so I'm one of my plans for the upcoming week off in July is going through my Storygraph and like converting all that stuff to Little Stack, or like at least like digging into Little Stack and making what I would need out of it, because I use Notion for my TBR and I use Storygraph to post all my stuff publicly. But it's exciting. I dug around in it. I dug around in it and made the account and everything initially when you put that tweet up, and it's cool. It is cool.
Simple, cool, which I love.
And exactly. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. It's just, I think the emails are dope, because I definitely need that to know things, because I don't wouldn't go to it all the time. I like the notifications.
And even you follow an author on Amazon. Actually, a lot of people don't even know that you can follow authors on Amazon.
Exactly.
And then you don't really get any information when they release a new book, or even if they do. So I just got the notification yesterday that I released my new book 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Right. So thank you. It's been an exciting 2 weeks.
Yep.
Of wondering.
Where did he actually that's so funny that if you're getting that, then imagine when your readers got it around that same time as well, as opposed to 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, it's the most chaotic thing in the world that you should get it on launch day.
Mm-hmm.
But
I was thinking about this. This was 100% a product of the walk that I took this morning, of like being able to take the books that I read and making like some sort of code API to say, hey, here's a list of all the books that I read. Somebody else can go to this thing, click and say, give me randomize and give me a book suggestion off of like Entro's book list. Excuse me. Anybody listening, you can't take that idea. Anybody listening, you cannot take that idea. I've only presented it here as a brainstorm. If I see it anywhere, I'm coming for you. But that'd be cool. That
would be really cool.
That would be actually really cool if I could go on to like Andy's book list and say, what has Andy read? Give me a suggestion off of what Andy's read. I feel like reading an Andy book today, and it's not necessarily a book that you have written, but it's just a book you read. That'd be so interesting.
That really would be. That's a whole lot of complicated coding.
That's so. You know what? these Vibe API like AI coders are about to get really busy, and show's coming. So this has been fun. This has actually been very fun. Usually, towards the end of a conversation, I'll ask a couple of things that I like to ask everybody, and the first one is, well, actually, you've already alluded to what's next, right? You're working on a couple of new projects. Are you going to any cons next?
I will be at WorldCon in August in Seattle.
Okay.
I may be at Seattle Fan Expo. Sorry, in Salt Lake Fan Expo.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only two for this year. There's big plans for next year, but so far for the year, those are the two that I know.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody going to Seattle? You can find Andy there. An intentionally vague question, but for anybody listening today, what is one advice you'd like to give them?
You know, I think the thing that I have come to value most in myself or in my life is finding the people that I can be myself with.
Mm-hmm.
So writing created this kind of safe space where I could put myself on a page and people would not only like it, but they would respond positively to it and say, oh, I see the same thing. In my email newsletter, I talk a lot about being diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome years and years ago, and how it shaped my writing. And so I kind of listed all the ways that I was affected by it. And I still get emails where people are like, oh yeah, my son has this, my daughter has this, I have this, my friend has this. Everybody has something about themselves, which, you know, can be some form of mental health disorder, whether it's, you know, high anxiety or chronic stress, all of that. So kind of understanding that, you realize you're not alone in being a little bit different than everybody else. And then you just find the people who are kind of different in the same way as you, and you make them your circle, because then you feel seen when you hang out with them. There are people who you can be vulnerable with, and once you have those people, everything else in life is a little bit easier to deal with. So find those people.
Mm-hmm. That's a different one. I haven't heard that one yet. That is deep. That is heavy. I agree, though. I very much agree. There's nothing for me to add to that at this point in time, lest I go on for another half hour about that. Where can people find you?
So everything is online under my name, Andy Peloquin. I hang out a lot on Instagram these days and TikTok. My books are on Amazon, and I have signed copies available through my website. I'm on Facebook. Just type my name into the Googles and you'll find me.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I did. So amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This has been a blast.
Awesome.